Rocky was a beautiful dog, a small bundle of joy with bright, expressive eyes and a coat that shimmered like gold under the light. His tail was in constant motion, a rhythmic flag of happiness, and his boundless zest for life made him utterly impossible to ignore. At just 4 years old, Rocky was brimming with energy, always ready to play, to explore, and to shower anyone he met with affection. His cheerful barks, wagging tail, and warm heart made him a favorite among the shelter staff, who adored his vibrant spirit and loving nature. But despite all his wonderful qualities, there was one mystery about Rocky that no one at the shelter could understand. He simply couldn't seem to stay in a home. He had been adopted not once, not twice, but 7 times. Each time, a family would come in, fall in love with his lively charm, and happily bring him home. Yet within weeks, Rocky would return, eyes bright, tail still wagging, as though nothing had happened. The staff, meanwhile, were left stunned and heartbroken. And the reasons, they were all over the place. One family said he was too energetic. Another claimed he was too lazy and refused to go for walks. Some said he was overly clingy, while others felt he was too distant. One adopter simply called him not a good fit, offering no explanation at all. How could the same dog inspire such wildly different reactions? To the shelter staff, Rocky was perfect. Friendly, affectionate, full of life. He showed no signs of aggression, no strange behaviors. Every time he came back, he greeted them with excitement, bouncing and barking, like a pup coming home from an adventure. Still, the question lingered, why couldn't Rocky keep a home? Determined to uncover the truth, a young student named Emma, who had been volunteering at the shelter for several months, decided to take matters into her own hands. Emma had always loved Rocky. She loved how he zoomed across the shelter yard like a comet, how he flopped on his back for belly rubs, how he brought joy wherever he went. She refused to believe he was anything but a delight. So she made a plan. "I'll take him home for the night," she told the shelter director. "If I can see how he behaves outside the shelter, maybe I'll figure out what's going on." It seemed like the perfect solution. That evening, Emma gently placed a thrilled Rocky into his carrier and headed to her car. As she drove home, she glanced into the rearview mirror. Rocky's tail wagged so fast, it made his whole body shimmy with joy. "You're just happy to go for a ride, huh?" she said, smiling. Rocky barked happily in return. Still, despite her affection for him, Emma felt a nervous flutter. What if something really was wrong with Rocky? What if, away from the shelter, he turned into a completely different dog? Could all those families have been right after all? Once home, she decided to go slow. She gently set down the carrier, opened the door, and stepped back. She wanted him to explore at his own pace, no pressure, no hovering. While Rocky hesitated, sniffing the air and scanning his new surroundings, Emma busied herself tending to her other pets, her gentle old Labrador, Charlie, and her curious cat, Lizzie, keeping a careful eye on Rocky the whole time. At first, he was cautious. He inched out of the carrier, nose twitching, ears alert. But within minutes, his hesitation melted away, replaced by the same whirlwind of joy Emma had always known. Sorry for the interruption. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Thank you. Suddenly, Rocky was off, darting around the room, paws clicking against the floor, tail wagging like mad. He barked at nothing, jumped onto cushions, sniffed every corner, and even did a little spin in the middle of the rug, just because he could. Emma chuckled as she watched. This was the Rocky she knew, joyful, goofy, full of life. She sighed in relief. Maybe those families just hadn't understood him. Maybe they were expecting a mellow lapdog, not a rocket-powered bundle of love. Whatever the case, nothing seemed wrong here. For now, Rocky was in his element. Tail high, heart light, running circles of happiness. But Emma stayed observant. She wasn't just here to enjoy his company. She wanted answers. She needed to understand why such a lovable dog kept ending up back at the shelter. The night passed without incident, and when morning light spilled through the curtains, Emma had a strange feeling. Today would be important. She had spent much of the night thinking, replaying every moment, every interaction, every clue. She needed to find out what had gone wrong in Rocky's past homes. After getting ready, she set off for the shelter with Rocky curled up in the passenger seat. He looked peaceful, unaware of the mystery swirling around him. Once there, Emma headed straight for his file. Inside was a list of every family who had adopted him. Names, numbers, notes. There had to be a connection. She started calling them one by one. Some didn't answer. Others picked up, and slowly a pattern began to emerge. Every single family had one thing in common. They all had other pets. The realization struck Emma like a bolt of lightning. Determined, she kept dialing, asking careful questions, piecing together the truth. One family finally admitted, hesitating, that Rocky had repeatedly attacked their elderly dog. They had thought it was just excitement at first, that he needed time to settle in. But the aggression escalated. Unprovoked, intense, impossible to ignore. With heavy hearts, they had returned him. Another former adopter, filled with regret, said Rocky had terrorized their cats. What began as curiosity turned into something much darker. Growls, snapping jaws, wild eyes. Even when separated, he'd scratch at doors, barking endlessly, as if trying to reach his prey. It became clear Rocky wasn't safe around other animals, and suddenly everything made sense. Another former owner recounted how Rocky had clashed constantly with their resident dog. At first, they had held on to hope, trying everything they could. They arranged slow introductions, supervised their time together, and even brought in a professional trainer. But despite their dedication, the fights only escalated. Each clash was more intense, more unpredictable, more heartbreaking than the last. Eventually, the tension in the home became unbearable. Returning Rocky was not a decision they made lightly. It devastated them, but in the end, they felt they had no choice. That was it. That was the missing piece. For all his sweetness toward humans, Rocky simply could not tolerate other animals. He didn't see them as companions. He saw them as threats, invaders in a space he wanted for himself. But none of the families had wanted to speak badly of him. They feared that if word got out about his aggression, no one would adopt him again. Worse, they worried he might be labeled dangerous and put down. So they returned him quietly, offering vague excuses and hoping that, one day, Rocky would find a home where he truly belonged. Now it all made sense. Armed with the truth, Emma found herself at a crossroads. She could write a note in his file, needs a pet-free home, and hope the right family came along. Or she could try something harder, something riskier, something that could change Rocky's life forever. She could try to help him. Emma had no illusions. She knew some dogs, no matter how much love or training they receive, simply can't change their instincts. But she wasn't ready to give up, not yet. So she made a plan. She began with controlled exposure. Rocky could see her other pets, Charlie, her wise old Labrador, and Lizzie, her cautious but curious cat, but only through a safety gate. No contact. No risks. Charlie wagged his tail politely. Lizzie sat nearby, watching with wide, alert eyes. But Rocky lost it. He barked furiously, teeth bared, muscles tensed. He lunged at the gate, trembling with frustration. To him, these animals weren't potential friends. They were intruders. The first few days were exhausting. Emma had to keep constant watch. Doubts crept in. Maybe this was too much to ask. Maybe Rocky really was destined to be an only pet. But then, something changed. Slowly, Rocky's behavior began to shift. The wild barking softened. The furious lunges became hesitations. He still stared at the other animals, but the rage in his eyes began to give way to something gentler, curiosity. Then one evening, Emma glanced into the living room and froze. Lizzie had slipped through the gate. She was in the same room as Rocky. Emma's heart caught in her throat, but Rocky didn't react. He didn't growl. He didn't move. He just watched Lizzie pad quietly past him, then turned back to his toy. It was a miracle in miniature, a quiet breakthrough. Encouraged, Emma decided to try the real test. She opened the gate and let Charlie in. The old Labrador ambled into the room, calm and friendly as ever. Rocky froze, ears perked, body tense. Emma held her breath. Would he snap? Would it all fall apart? Then Rocky stepped forward. Slowly, carefully, he sniffed Charlie. Charlie sniffed back. And then, Rocky's tail gave a small wag. Then a bigger one. His eyes lit up. His body language softened. And with a sudden burst of joy, he bounced playfully in front of Charlie, inviting him to play. Charlie wagged his tail, nudged Rocky gently, and the two dogs were off, tumbling, chasing, barking with glee.
No growling.
No fighting, just joy. Emma stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes. After all this time, after all those returns, all those failed adoptions, Rocky had done it. Even Lizzie, the cat, sauntered up to Rocky and gave him a few tentative licks before curling beside them on the floor. It was peace. It was harmony. It was everything Emma had hoped for. Soon it was time for Rocky to return to the shelter and go back up for adoption. But as Emma packed his things, something inside her shifted. She didn't want to let him go. Rocky had changed, and so had she. He had gone from a mystery to a challenge, from a challenge to a companion, and finally to family. She had helped him find peace, and now she couldn't imagine life without him. So Emma made the only decision that felt right. She adopted Rocky herself. He had already found his forever home, right there by her side. Sometimes all a dog needs is a little patience, a little understanding, and a lot of love to become the very best version of themselves. Rocky proved that, and Emma knew without a doubt she had made the right choice. Because in the end, Rocky wasn't just a good dog. He was a great one. Did this story warm your heart? Have you ever adopted an animal that came with challenges? How did you help them grow? Tell us your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Sometimes all an animal needs is a helping hand, a kind heart, and a safe place to call home. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video, and until then, take care.